Every country has an area which it refers to as the countryside or rural area. These are parts which are away from the normal hustle and bustle which many metropolitan cities have come to be associated with. They are also sparsely populated. Now, World Bank collection of development for 2016 indicates that 51.4% of Nigeria's population reside in the rural areas. However, this is being debated by professionals in the field, as there are indications that the urban areas are more populated. Some areas of discuss on this episode of Big Story is how comfortable are the residents in the rural areas in Nigeria? Also, should the bigger plan be to urbanize the rural areas, or are there advantages to the existence of rural areas? You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. The Metropolitan. The rural. Two opposing looks that make up states and by extension countries all over the world, Nigeria not excluded. The figure by World Bank that there are slightly more people living in the rural areas has been met with stiff argument because of what has become the now accepted excessive demand on infrastructure available in the cities.
Anything that has to do with population in Nigeria is a contentious issue, and World Bank will give its own figures. Nigerian national population, the census they gave their own figure. And then I remember the last time we had a national census, that was 2006. The Lagos State government came up with its own program and they gave their own figure. So when you compare the three, there will always be that differences. So it all depends on from which perspective are we looking at this, and what is the motive behind what we are looking at, and who is doing the assessment, or who is coming out with these figures. So, but globally, it's known fact since 2007 that majority of human race now live in urban environment, in cities. And then the situation is not slowing down, and everywhere all over the world, there's that tendency for people to move from rural area to urban area. Well, whether it's 49 or 51, whatever it is, from my opinion, I would believe, or I would argue that more people are living in urban area.
This perspective then births the question, is the situation of population concentration indicative that the rural areas are getting urbanized, or is it the same old excess migration to the cities?
Settlement will naturally grow, except there's a problem. So whether it's rural or it's urban, it's growing, it's expanding. If you go to Ibadan, 10 years ago, you have the physical extent of Ibadan is not what we have now. It has extended. The physical extent of Lagos is not what we have 10 years. It has expanded. So Abuja is expanding. All the settlements will be expanding. And as they are expanding, there are pockets of settlements around them that they will take along in that process of expanding. Lagos started from Eko, Lagos, the Victoria Island, Lagos Island area. And then settlements like Yaba, Ikeja, Oshodi were pockets of rural settlements then. Now, because of urbanization, these things keep evolving, and then in the process of growing, consuming all those pockets of rural settlements. And now you have a megacity that is extended as far as beyond Korodu, as far as Ekpe, Badagry, on the other side. So it's the definition of rural. In fact, the Nigerian standard, any population of a settlement that is more than 20,000 is considered as urban.
Just off the expressway which leads to Ijebu-Ode, the second largest city in Ogun State, lies a quiet town which is also part of the southwestern state. The story of Ososa town came to be after the coming together of indigents of 7 villages who fled the warlords in different parts of Ogun State to settle here for safety, and also in agreement to unite and fight their common enemy. Their history is, however, interwoven with that of Ijebu-Ode.
A conglomeration of 7 group of people or 7 groups of villages that had to come together for the sake of security. And you remember that in those days there were always all this slave trade going on and night marauders and stuff. And so they decided to come together and stay in this place. And that was how we came together. But they didn't have a king. So in the 15th century, the Knight Awujale in Ijebu land, the history of Ijebu far obviously updates that of Ososa. But what we know is that the Knight Awujale then, Oba Ufiran, had 7 children, or more than that. But the eldest one, tall, handsome, whose name was Isiwu, left the palace with the tallest crown. He got here, met this group of people with their own high priest, but no king naturally. And because of the paraphernalia, they saw him with the crown and all that. They now came and said, Kabiesi. And that was how Ososa got a king.
Apart from this rich cultural history of Ososa, one of its sons has drawn attention to this quiet town. The late Dr. Herbert Adedeji Ogunde, who lived between 1916 and 1990. He was a prominent actor, playwright, and wrote over 50 plays in his lifetime. He was also a theatre manager and a musician. He founded the first contemporary professional theatrical company in Nigeria, the African Music Research Party, in 1945. Based on the features which characterize rural areas, which include geographically located outside towns and cities, low population density, that of Ososa being within the range of 10,000, Ososa has been categorized as a rural area. However, with prominent sons such as Dr. Ogunde and the achievement of being the first contemporary professional theatrical company in Nigeria, the expectation is that it would be a comfortable rural area to reside in, but infrastructure deficiencies have given it a different face.
Those entrances into our town have been neglected for so long, from the era of Babao. That is not to say there are not, from time to time, road maintenance going on. But for where we are today, we ought to have a better standard road into us by now. But I think it is because successive governments have never felt that, they need to go into the rural areas to do development. And it's really a sore thumb. I used to tell people that when you do infrastructures, most important of which is road, people will go and develop the places themselves. Even when you go into an empty virgin land, you do fantastic road, fantastic drainage, then you put street light, you'll be shocked that people will go there on their own and put up industry, put up schools, put up estates, residences. It's a major problem. It's a serious major problem. I don't want to sound like I'm taking sides of government. I've been in government before, so I happen to know that it is not as easy. First of all, the attention of government is being sought by so many aspects of our lives. part of which is most government have to think of their political leverage, political mileage. They think of the term is going to end, they need to campaign for the next term. If they don't want, if they are doing their second term, they want to install somebody who is going to be a surrogate. So all that alone sometimes determines what a sitting government does. So for me, I think it's our people that need to insist on the kind of government they want. You know, there's a saying that the people get the kind of government they deserve. For me, I believe that we are not there yet, but we're going to get there because leadership matters a lot. If a leader decides this is what I want to do and is sincere, usually when there is will, there will be a way. But obviously when a leader is not so focused, particularly on his people, if you come from a rural area, for instance, as a governor or as a council chairman, and if you are focused about your people, then you are going to look at what you need to do.
The side effect of a rural area is suffered by the youths.
I was in O level, so I passed out at Ososa Comprehensive High School in the year 2009. So at that time to this time, so I wish to study more, but because of the one or two things, that is why I can't study more. Then I was using bike to do some job.
In recent times, youths have been very, let me say, they have been kind of, the youths are becoming more, the youthful decadence have been in this town in recent times. So it's not really been, so in fact I would say I don't really want my children to growing up here is really challenging. For the parents, I don't see my children living, I don't know, maybe things as things are changing, maybe the children will get over like the issue of youth, let me say, drug addiction is becoming more permanent here, prominent here. It's becoming more prominent here. What is it called? This Indian names of a thing is becoming more prominent here.
But the story is different for the retirees. After spending decades in Lagos, Tajuddin Akinyele is happy and fulfilled to now live in Ososa.
You know, there is no reduction of transport, no housing problem. So those are the difference compared to Lagos. When there is a transport problem, we wanted to enter bus, we rush everywhere, rush. But in Ogun State, maybe also no rush, we just enter bus. And the housing, no problem in housing. So that's the difference.
Okay, but do you have enough customers?
I have many. You know, it's also a small, lively state now. You know, we are near to Ijebu, so people, even the people living, and we have a factory here, so more people live in Ososa here.
Ososa town in Ogun State is just one of the many rural areas in Nigeria, and its story is a reflection of that of almost all areas which have been termed rural, irrespective of the region it is found in the country. According to trading economics indices, access to electricity in rural areas is just about 40%, while it's placed at 86% in urban areas. Facilities such as internet, which is about 26%, potable water, open defecation are other factors in comparing the urban and rural areas and responsible for the high movement from the rural to the urban areas.
Rural starts from the homestead, through the hamlet, the village, and on until we talk about the city and the mega cities and so on. So it's a continuum. It's just a question of thin lines dividing them. Rural areas generally are more into primary activities compared to urban areas. But these days, you find that we are now moving. It's a process of urbanization, which is an irreversible process. More people are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas. The urban areas are also growing due to migration from the rural areas, due to natural increase and so on. With the result that as of today, you have about 55% of the people living in urban areas, unlike previously where more people lived in rural areas. As of today, you have about 55% of the people living in urban areas. And it has been projected that in 30 years' time, about 2050, you'll be having about 2/3 of the people, that's about 68% of the people living in urban areas. And these urban areas have concentration of people within a small area relative to the rural areas.
Whether the answer is urbanizing more areas or just providing infrastructure in the rural areas, it forms one conversation, which is followed by the question of if existing master plans by various state governments hold the answer.
A regional plan is meant to balance the growth between the rural areas and the urban areas. It's also used to solve problems of depressed areas. That's regional plans. And master plans are supposed to derive their strength from regional plans. We're supposed to have, for instance, a national development plan, which is a national physical development plan, which is a regional plan. Then within the context of this regional plan, we'll now be having master plans for the cities, which should derive its strength from the regional plan. But as of now, we hardly have regional plans in this country. What we have are just master plans for the cities. It's only NDDC that is a regional development plan for a region, a large area. But the right thing would have been for us to have regional development plan. At the national level, we'll have a national physical development plan, which will deal more with policies and general location of activities based on comparative advantage. Then at the city level, we'll be having master plans that will really deal with specific locations of specific activities. But generally we don't have that in this country. And that is possibly why having the plan is one thing, implementing it is another thing, but that is possibly why our rural areas are even shrinking at a faster rate than maybe they would have. Everybody is tending to move to the urban areas.
Professionals also say that there are huge economic benefits to maintaining rural areas in the country, and Nigeria should give attention to this.
Well, if we have a regional plan, that will then definitely define what we should do to the rural areas, what the rural areas should be used for. Because, like I said, you have a rural-urban continuum, depending on the policy you adopt. If we adopt a policy like, for instance, if we adopt the growth pole policy, that means you will strengthen the urban areas, all right, but the linkage between the urban areas and the rural areas will be such that the advantages will be trickling down to the rural areas. And the rural areas, the living standard of the people, the rural areas will also improve. For instance, if we ensure that people in the rural areas are productive and they produce things that are needed in the urban areas. As an example, if you have, say, a palm oil production, a factory that uses palm oil in the urban area, and the surrounding, the hinterland of that urban area, which is the rural area, now produce palm oil. The thing is that the palm oil will be sold, and the rural populace will derive some income that will improve their standard of living. So there should be a good linkage between the urban areas and the rural areas. But unfortunately, what we have currently is that we import virtually everything. Our rural areas are not really producing things that are being utilized in the urban areas. But otherwise, if they are producing things that are utilized in the urban areas for other forms of production, then you find that the income, a certain amount of income will be trickling down to the rural areas, and that with that, the rural populace will be able to improve their standard of living.
From my own personal opinion, I have issues with the way the model we are operating in Nigeria. The model is such that we are not producing anything. We are just consuming. The model is such that we have farmland, land that are fertile, that can grow crops and all that, and we are not just on ourselves. We are not interested in developing agriculture. I don't know why that is the case, but if you ask anybody now, even all these young graduates that are jobless, ask them to go to a village or anything, they will tell you they don't want to live in a little village. Nobody wants to be a farmer. So if we develop our agricultural sector, people will be in the farms and they provide facilities, basic things that will make life worth living. Then that should be fine. If they still want to move to the urban area to buy groceries and all that, fine. But basic things, electricity, security and all that. You can't just say in the middle of nowhere and say you want to do farming. Your safety is important. So these are a lot of issues, a lot of complications. So plan for people who want to, you have to develop a rural area, not necessarily in terms of infrastructure, but what is meant to serve, at least for, if it's going to be agreed, let it be agreed.
Planning for the continuous population growth in the urban areas, but balancing that with creation of opportunities in the rural areas is the take-home from this episode of Big Story. Nigerians look forward to a time when they would be at liberty to choose where to settle and not forced by availability of infrastructure and opportunities. That's our story. I'm Ini John Mekwa.